Hey there everyone, welcome to this commentated version of my score run with Mima on Lunatic, and this run scores 133 million. This score reached my ultimate goal I had with this game that I've been chasing down for quite a long time. This is the first time I hold the overall world record in this game. That was basically my ultimate goal. If the world record ever got raised at some point, then that would not change my goal. Then I would have still been chasing after one to get over 132.8 million, which is what the record was when I was chasing this goal. So my first score run of this game goes all the way back to October 29th, 2014, and that was on normal with Marissa. And so it has been nearly 5 years since I started scoring. To go over like how long it took to get this far. When I started scoring, like I was only playing on normal. A year later I went after Lunatic as well. But either way, when I started scoring, it took 2 years in being into scoring until I got my first 100 million run, which is like, you know, that's a good threshold where you can say like, alright, this is a score run, you know, on Lunatic. Then it took me another 5 months more to get 110 million. Then it took 3 more months to get 120 mil, so I was doing really well here. But then it took another 2 years to get 130 mil. So like when you start to get above 110 million, like it actually gets quite rough to score higher. And that's why, I mean, I was lucky with getting 120 million really fast, but you know, getting to 130 million took very long, and this is not the first 130 million that I have, as my PB at the top of the screen suggests. This is my PB is the first 130 million I got, and it only took about like 2 weeks until I got this score, I believe. And so throughout the whole time that I've been scoring this game, I've been posting my scores on MOTK. Back when Zill was active there, he came up with tips and tricks to help me out with my scoring attempts. And you know, his help was definitely very useful in the early years. And you know, being able to look back at the progression of, you know, how I started understanding this game and my PB history, being able to see that in the forum is quite nice. And you know, people can make fun of me for saying that, but I think the forums are still a good way of archiving things, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't really know like how my progression in this game was at all. Because that's, like, especially in the early years, that's the only place where I posted my stuff. So, yeah. To go over the core of the scoring for a little bit, you use level 2 spells to create bullet patterns on the opposing screen, which will consist of only pellet bullets, which can be reflected back to you. Mima's level 2 is really good, because not only does it spread across the screen nicely, the bullets also all come from one spot, meaning it has the potential to be massively reflected back to you. While I'm using level 2s, I generally also want to stay directly below the enemies that are being killed. This is to potentially use them to protect myself from incoming pellet bullets. You also do this because fireballs will be aimed at your X position 50% of the time. The first 5 seconds of a round, the fireballs spawn in random directions, or positions, and the next 5 seconds they are aimed at you. And after that the cycle just repeats, so it's not aimed, aimed, not aimed, or aimed, or sorry, random, aimed, random, aimed. It's not exactly 5 seconds, there is something that kind of throws off the timing a little bit, but we don't know how exactly that happens. That is just one of the many mysteries in this game that have yet to be solved, and like this game is extremely deep. Like there's still so much we don't know about this game, but I mean, of course, the most relevant things we do know, but there's still sometimes things that happen that just leave us confused. Anyway, to get back to the fireballs, these give the most spell points, which is the yellow number in the upper left corner. And spell points are what help you summon bosses. In scoring, you pretty much only use spell points to summon bosses. The other way would be to charge up to a level 4, which that also depletes the whole gauge, and you need the entire gauge to do it. Meaning you can't summon level 2s, which, you know, those are the actual source of scoring, so summoning bosses has to happen with spell points, which pretty much happens naturally by just spamming level 2s and getting stuff to reflect back. You can sometimes just see like these big stacks of fireballs coming down on me when they are aimed at me. That's a good way to tell that they were aimed. So yeah, so far 30 million after stage 3. 10 million average between stage 1 and 6 is good. Like if you can keep that up, then you're having a very good run. But yeah, with the spell points, you know, the more boss summons you get with those spell points, the better. And the spell points are also being added to your score when they cancel out. So you want to get massive spell points as much as possible by making the game harder by spamming level 2s and strategically placing yourself to cancel bullets and fireballs. There are like, when it comes to like the strategic aspect of things, there are a lot of subtle details that go on. You know, not just with strategic placement, but also just looking at certain things on the screen, which includes also looking at the AI screen. There's a lot of things in this game that go on, you know, especially when you're at this level. Like, you pretty much have to like pay attention to a lot of things, and because of that, it's also very easy to get blindsided by like even just one bullet that could potentially kill you and potentially also kill your run. But yeah, for the sake of making things not too confusing, I'll leave the explanation at this. The rest of this video is not gonna have much commentary because it's mostly gonna be about you know, where I make mistakes, or you know, how good my score is. But yeah, if you want to get around the level of 120 million, then you should become aware of the small details. Otherwise, scoring any higher is highly unlikely. So my Ellen round was pretty good here. Normally I would not get 10 million on Ellen. So the fact that my you know, my score gains are remain consistent is good here. I guess also one more thing that I should probably explain about Mima. Her level 1, her charge attack, it's a cone of bullets that she fires, is extremely good for killing bosses. If you point blank with her, it pretty much takes only 2 shots for any boss attack to be killed. And so since the attack is really big, like it has a large spread, it does not help too much with like getting your max combo very high. But thankfully on Lunatic that isn't very important, because most of your player bonus comes from the other bonuses. On easy and normal it's a lot more important. And her Mima's level 1 is actually very good to like kill enemies in a pinch when you have to kill something very quickly. And this is especially useful just for the sake of keeping the spell points up. If you have to kill something really quick to reverse a boss, for example, then it's very possible that without Mima's spread you can't gain spell points fast enough, because when you start gaining spell points and it stops, then after a second or two the spell points are being cancelled out. And also, like, the more bosses are being reversed without the boss leaving the screen or being directly killed, means that reversing a boss becomes progressively harder, because every time a boss is being summoned, the spell point requirement goes up by 51,200. So when I summon the first boss to the AI screen, they have to they need 102,800, 400 to reflect it back, or, you know, to keep it simple, 51,200 times 2. If they then reverse the boss back, then it will require me 51,200 times 3, and so on and so on. And if the spell point requirement becomes higher than the spell point cap, which is 655,350, then that requirement will loop back around to 0, and just by the way how the requirement goes up, it basically wraps back around to 10,250. So getting Rikako here on stage 6 is the best. She's the best stage 6 opponent. Mima would be the other best one, because they both have very high scoring potential, but Rikako's a little bit easier, and, you know, just because she's a little bit easier still means she's very hard. It's very hard to deal with. Rikako's boss pattern, where she shoots like a row of 4-way bullets constantly, that is very hard to dodge, because the directions that they are being aimed at is random. So it becomes a reaction battle. And since Mima is not the fastest moving character, she can sometimes struggle. But other than that, Rikako doesn't have anything that's glaringly difficult about her. So yeah, this attack right here, as you can see, I got hit by it because I couldn't react to the bullets fast enough, and I kinda have a tendency to not bomb, which is just my own weakness, really. But if I take a hit very early on in the match, I will take less damage. So like I kind of use that to my advantage because like right now I'm pretty sure I took 3 hits or 2, and normally I would take 3 hits to die, but now I take 4 because when you will always survive a hit that will kill you, that would kill you normally, assuming I didn't have a half heart. So the next hit that I could take here is going to bring me to a half heart. Also, that was a very lucky bullet cancel right there. It's quite rare to have Rikako's pellets attack right there get perfectly reflected, which, as you can see, it created a huge shitstorm. And you know, shitstorm, even though it's not really part of pod terminology, we do use it to refer to Kotohime's level 2 if it gets perfectly reflected, because it creates huge shitstorms back to the other screen. And so yeah, 8.1 mil clear bonus, and I think I had like 13-14 mil overall in that round, which is very good. So my score right now, if we can get back to the screen here, it's 63.6. That's very high. That's very good. That is definitely above average. Like, I would say my average scores when I get to stage 7 without deaths is about 50, 57. So this is definitely one of my better paces. Just to give an idea what my best pace ever was up to this point without deaths, that would be 71 million. So, you know, just to give an idea how much higher I could potentially score more. Assuming I go full ballistics and get very lucky as well. Because that's pretty much what you need to, you know, get that kind of pace. At least with Mima. Theoretically, Chiri is the best for score, but she's so hard to use, and my PB right now is actually only 124 million, and the old record that I beat with this run, like the overall record, was done with Chiri. And that simply is because Chiri shoots more pellet bullets. Her level 2 lasts very long on high rank, which you pretty much get almost immediately in the late game of Lunatic, and on Lunatic, like even on the early stage, you can get it pretty quickly. And her boss attack also produces the most pellet patterns. She has only one pattern that does not create pellet bullets. And she has, I believe, 4 attacks. So yeah, most of her patterns shoot pellet bullets. And you know, as far as Mima goes, most of her patterns also shoot pellet bullets. I think only one of her boss patterns doesn't shoot pellet bullets. So like, the decisive match here is based on which character you play, and here it's Reimu, and she is probably the second hardest decisive match. And what makes it also kind of mean is that Reimu is the decisive match in like for 3 different characters, whereas every other character that shows up in stage 7 only belongs to one character you play. So yeah, that's something. And you know, also a reason why Chiri is so hard to clear with and to score with in general is because she gets Kotohime, who is definitely the hardest decisive match, especially for Chieri, because Kotihime is all based around micro-dodging, and Chieri is the worst at that because her movement speed is the highest in the game. And also offensively, she's not very good. So yeah, I did play it a little bit safe here, but my clear bonus was still pretty good. Like, Reimu is not someone who gives like insane score potential, so you know, this was pretty much as good as I could hope for. She did die early, so if she didn't die early, I could have probably had like, I don't know, somewhere around 2 to 4 million higher. So Reimu can die early pretty often, simply because her movement speed is very low. The AI in this game is programmed so they dodge things at the last moment possible, and if the AI has slower movement speed, that makes it all the more likely that they are not going to dodge something in time. Because they pretty much dodge everything the exact same way, because that is just how they are programmed. So this is a pretty big deciding factor of the run, Chieri. She gives a lot of scoring potential, as you would expect. And normally what I would do is, you know, spend all of my lives on Chieri, but as it turns out, at least for me, this could be different for other people, but I found that I get more score trying to spend all my resources on Yuma. And I'm pretty sure the reason for this is because I feel like I can play more risky against her than I can with Chieri, because Chieri is just more constantly difficult, I guess. Like Yumemi is still like a very hard fight, but the thing with her is she's only super difficult if she shoots the wrong boss attacks, whereas Chieri has hard patterns all around. Also, by spending all of my lives on Yumemi as I plan to, you know, I want to clear the game with no lives left. And if I get a very late round as the one I clear with, means that not only is it going to be easier for me to clear because the timer decreases per round, I can also play more risky because of that, and you know, still clear. Whereas if I spend all my lives on Chieri and then, you know, have to play Yumemi with only 2 lives, then it would be more likely than not that I will game over. And that is including not playing risky. And so Yumemi's timer on round 2, I think, is like 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So that is still very long, and you know, you can't really assume that she's going to die early, because this is just this game. Like, when you want things to go well, it never does. And like, with how unfair Yumemi can be at times, you know, you just kind of have to hope and pray that she's not gonna be that bullshit Yumemi that she wants to be. Which would be, you know, just to spam bosses all over the place, you not having any chance to reflect them because it, you know, it is luck based to a degree. And then she also gives you the worst attacks. And there's like, for me, there's only one really hard attack right now, which is the Death Cloud, I would say. The Spiral is also extremely hard, but with that one, since it's basically just a thin wall of bullets, I can go through it with invincibility frames. And the invincibility frames I get after releasing a charge attack of any level. And so you get 6 frames of invincibility, like just after the charge attack is being fired. And you know, you might think 6 frames is a large window. Well, it really isn't. It's a lot harder than it sounds. And the reason for that is because you have to consider that in those 6 frames, I have to pass through a hurt box of the bullet. And you know, I would assume that I have to spend more than 1 frame being inside of the hitbox before I go back out. So I do have to time it pretty well, but I've gotten pretty consistently over it. Like, I don't actually practice in this game ever. I've always been playing, like, I've always practiced through just trial and error, just playing the game normally. Because I feel in this game, like, the game is just so extremely random that I feel like practicing isn't really helpful. When I started playing Lunatic, like, just to get, like, barely into it, I did practice theory, but that's all the practice I ever did in this game. Also, to get back on the run, I did die, but the round I think it still took 5 minutes, and the fact that Chiri never took a hit early is pretty lucky. Like, her timer is 6 minutes, and in that time, she is quite likely to take an unintentional hit at some point. Which, I mean, that makes sense. The longer the timer, the more likely it is to happen. But yeah, that is something to watch out for. And, like, even if she died early, I would have then I would still want to win the round. Because, you know, as I said, I would ideally want to spend all my lives on Yumemi because I feel like I can play risky on her. I can say that some of my previous PBs have definitely had much better performance on Yumemi than this run, and that's just mostly because I was nervous, because, I mean, it was world record pace. And, you know, that's not to say that world record pace runs were rare. I mean, they didn't happen often, but I've had a lot of world record pace runs. And, you know, the moment something goes wrong, it either becomes impossible to recover, or you have to play risky. And if I can get a huge PB, then I would rather play it safe, because it would be horrible feeling to, like, play risky just to get extra score, only to game over and not even PB at all. In this game, I do not care at all that I have to, like, make small improvements all the time, because I feel like that is just the best way for me to approach this game. So Chiri did take an unintentional hit here, but luckily it took less damage, which can only mean that she took the second hit in very quick succession, like very quickly after the other hit before it. Otherwise, she would have just taken normal damage. So that makes up for the fact that she took an unintentional hit. And, you know, also a good way to know that she took an unintentional hit, she had no bombs left. Because in this game, the AI is programmed to always avoid an unintentional hit by bombing, and that's also the only time it ever bombs. So when you see the AI use up both of its bombs, then it essentially means it already took 2 hits. I mean, it didn't really, but, you know, if we are to assume bombs weren't a thing, then yes, the AI would have taken 2 hits. So yeah, Chiri is almost done here. She's using her hyper to prevent herself from getting hit here. She uses the hypers the same way as she would bombs. And there she goes. And 8.42 mil is way good. 15 boss flips is a lot. Like anything 10 plus boss flips, or rather boss reversals, is a lot. So yeah, there's gonna be a bit of a pause here. Okay, guess not that much. Yeah, now I have 101 million entering Yumemi with 3 lives, and a good run would get 10 million on average per round, and that does include the clear bonus, just not to make it too confusing. So that would mean an ideal run would be on 140 mil pace right now. And so the first round, Yumemi has no timer. She has no intentional hits at any point, so it could last forever, this round. But considering the AI is not that great, she will bomb at some point. With, like, at least with Mima, she can sometimes just do derpy things and, you know, have to bomb. But, you know, she can also just stay alive forever, never bomb. And, you know, if she never bombs, then you know you're safe. She's not gonna die on accident. But yeah, if she were to die on accident, then the run is over instantly. The whole point is to spend all my lives on Yumemi, because you basically can't clear on round 1 and have it be worth it unless you're on your last life. Even if you were on 2 lives, then you would still be better off playing another round, because you get more score from playing another round, including the clear bonus, than you would if you just cleared immediately and get 1 million from your extra life. Like that does not, you can gain a lot more than 1 million by playing another life, or, you know, another round. The only time I ever cleared with lives, at least a year or more ago, I would only clear with lives left simply because I didn't want to risk dying on the last round, when I was seeing that, you know, maybe the second last round was going really well. And as of now, my Kana PB actually clears with 1 extra life left. And I think Zill's world record with Kotahime right now is also clears with 1 extra life left. But that only happened because she died way too quick. And I guess Zill couldn't even kill himself. So he actually lost overall record pace with that. I think his Kotime run was 126 or 127 million. If he spent another life, he could have had 130 plus easily. Assuming he cleared, of course. Because clearing is always something else in this game. But since what I'm doing is basically spending, trying to get very late rounds with Yumemi to get my clears with, game overs are not that likely, because she's gonna die much quicker. And in this run, if I were to win the 4th round, I think her timer would be 3 minutes flat, I think. Not 3 minutes, I think 3.5. Which, you know, that might still sound pretty bad, but it's a lot better than trying to win her at round 2 where her timer is 5 minutes 20. Like, the fact that her timer is being decreased by nearly 2 minutes is huge. Like, it matters a lot. Like, especially going from round 2 to from round 2 to 3, the timer decreases a lot, relatively speaking. So if you noticed, when I was at 2 hearts, I used the level 2. That was kind of a bad decision on my end, because basically what I just kind of anticipated that Yumemi was not going to live that much longer, and when Yumemi is on her last hit, you know, she could basically die at any time if she doesn't have a full gauge, which she almost certainly won't have. Yeah, that was a bit of a silly death right there. I could have dodged that one, but I will say in this run, Yumemi didn't go very well. Not in the first couple of rounds, because, one, I was nervous, and two, I also did not have my focus in the right places. It's very easy to, like, you know, not have your focus be in the right places. There's a lot of things at this level that you have to pay attention to. And so it's very easy to get blindsided by, you know, even just one bullet. Yeah, there I just stood still because I was scared, didn't want to move. Didn't read the bullet in time. And she also kept summoning bosses, and also using the Death Cloud, which is unlucky. Like, when that happens, like, I basically don't have to expect to dodge it, because it's so hard to read. It just is. Even when you use enemies to, you know, get rid of as many of the pellet bullets as possible, it's still a miss. That was a very close bomb. If that didn't happen, I would have been hit. But like, since I took only 1 heart of damage, there's a very high chance that the next hit is not going to bring me down to a half heart. In this game, the highest damage you can take is 3.5, and I don't know if 3.5 hearts of damage only happens when you take very long to take your next hit. Like, it almost feels a bit random when you take 3 or 3.5 hearts of damage. And yeah, there's the spam again, and I really got unlucky here, because, like, I couldn't do anything here. And yeah, then I had to macro the cone, and then it was also a level 3, so I couldn't just tab left. Okay, well, I could, but the cone is, like, you can actually just tap to the side to dodge it, but it is extremely precise. And the spread on the cone also varies, and I don't think it's based on rank, it's just based on luck and nothing else. So trying to dodge the cone that way is very risky, and, you know, perhaps I should have dodged that way. But, you know, I totally could have dodged the level 3 by, even if I had to, like, macro around the cone pattern. That was also another unlucky hit. That one pellet just so happened to be where I was, and I didn't see it in time, or I just didn't read it properly. So yeah, you can see I was choking kinda pretty bad. But I still knew that with the score I had, and the resources, I knew PB was still possible. And, you know, in the end, if I have to play risky to PB at all, then I don't feel bad about it, because at least then, you know, it at least feels that playing risky is justified, and not just, you know, playing risky just because I'm greedy. Like, what I end up doing, like, I do end up playing risky, but it's not because of greed, it's just simply because I have no choice. And again, that one pellet slipped through the gap of the level 3, and then I took another hit. Like, this was like extremely unlucky round. And, you know, also, you know, not being at my strongest with my dodging either. So yeah, at this point, like, I knew I had to play risky. But like, since it's the last round, the timer is also reduced again, so... And I did take that hit early, but since it's only a half heart, I'm guaranteed to be able to take 4 hits now. When I die. But you know, of course I can take 3 hits and still be okay. So yeah, at this point I'm definitely going more mad with my level 2s because I have to. In an ideal situation, when she summons bosses, you just want to have the spell points to be able to send it back immediately. But if she gets a chance to attack, then things can get really dangerous. So yeah, she used up both of her bombs to avoid unintentional hits here. And I don't know if this hit was on accident. It might have been, it might have not been. I don't know. I don't know the timers for hit 1 and 2 that are supposed to be happening on purpose. I just know that she dies at 3 minutes and 30 seconds on round 4, I believe. And yeah, she's already at her last hit because she took 2 hits in quick succession. So one of those hits was definitely unintentional. And because of that, like, she is not going to make up for the unintentional hit by skipping the next intentional hit, so she's gonna die soon, and she is basically guaranteed to die early. But since she does have a hyper, she can at least use that still to prolong the match at least a little bit. Yeah, since that happened, I'm now trying to play risky, but I'm still kind of playing safe because, I mean, like, even at this point, you know, I can't just get screwed over and die. It's very, very possible. And so Yumemi dies here, and at this point I was just kind of hoping that Clear Bones was high enough, and it was actually very high, even though Yumemi died early. And so my final score is 133.6 million, beating the record by 800,000, roughly. So all in all, this run was very good, despite, you know, my embarrassing display on Yumemi. My luck into stage 7 was well above average, very good. One of my better paces I've had. Reimu went well, Chidori went well despite the death, the first death. The second round was very good. It was only the first couple of rounds on Yumemi that really brought the score down. So I ended up getting 8 million average per round on Yumemi, when ideally I would get 10. So, you know, that gives you the kind of idea what, you know, a run would get without major mistakes, and also without getting absurd luck. Because, you know, like, with this game, like, anything can happen, you know? Like, I could be 10 million behind entering stage 7, but then still PB potentially, just because the rest of the game goes really well. So, like, you don't very easily get a dead run until, your run is not gonna be dead unless you, like, start dying either very early, or you start dying several times on Reimu, because her scoring potentially isn't that high, and she just sucks in general. So yeah, I'm not done with this game yet. I can still go for 140 million, but I also do want to chase after the remaining Lunatic records that I don't hold or just don't hold anymore. And yeah, that's where we stand right now. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this run, and you know, stay tuned for any future runs that may come. Either way, I'm not done with this game yet, but at least I can say now that I'm satisfied. Thanks for watching.